What's up, guys? Jake here, and I wanted to report on these anti-ICE protests. Apparently, the anti-ICE protesters are organizing events in major cities across the United States, and now we are starting to see riots pop off all over the country. It is not just happening in Los Angeles anymore. And on June 14th, in just a couple more days, there is supposed to be a nationwide protest that is supposed to basically happen in every major city across the country and in Europe as well. This one right here happened in Tucson, Arizona. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the footage from this anti-ICE protest in Tucson, Arizona. So here we see the rioters with full shields, helmets, and they look like they're well prepared. Meanwhile, the cops, the agents here, heavily outnumbered, and not one of the police actually has their real weapon out. So we see this agent here has what looks like a rubber pellet gun, just looks like a paintball gun, basically. And this cop right here doesn't have any sort of gun out at all. So I would say in this situation, with these agents heavily outnumbered, they should be showing a little more fear in this situation for their lives. I mean, with a crowd like this and these policemen heavily outnumbered, what's to stop the crowd from overtaking these men, taking their weapons away, and beating them senseless? So right away, something strange about this whole scene pops out at me. And here we have a photographer and, of course, the person who's holding the camera. They're not scared. They're there to get all of the cinematic angles. And, of course, this footage ends up on the New York Post, mainstream media. So the fact that we're getting this cinematic coverage of this supposed chaotic event also has me thinking we could be looking at a staged training drill. So this guy right here, this agent, look, he's just holding like a nightstick, doesn't even have his weapon drawn. Meanwhile, you have people barricaded with shields who just look like they fired some sort of firework, smoke bomb or something at the police, right? There's way more protesters than there are agents. So the fact that there's this line right down the middle and the cameras are set up perfectly on the lines separating the agents and the protesters seems a little too convenient and cinematic for me. This appears to me, in my honest opinion, to be some sort of training drill, and they're passing this off to the public as if this is real riot footage, but it doesn't appear to be actual riot footage to me. These appear to be paid protesters putting on a simulated protest. And the way that this is set up, this almost looks like it's a closed movie set. It almost looks like they have this parking lot blocked off. So imagine a closed set where they can have a simulated protest training drill. And then they give this footage to the New York Post. They clip it up and then they show it to the public and they say, look at this riot in Tucson. Whoa. Okay, is this a bear mace cannon being shot at the police? Is that what we're seeing, this red stuff? Is that supposed to be mace? Okay, so it looks like this agent is going to spray a tiny little canister of mace at people who have shields and goggles. Just then, he's pelted with a high capacity spray being shot with some serious power. In order to shoot a spray like that 20 feet, that is like what looks like some sort of a bear spray cannon. So you're telling me one of these protesters showed up with a bear spray cannon and the police are going to like let this dude shoot him in the face with mace and they're not going to draw their weapons or anything? And then this officer here just turning and walking away. That's not really the reaction that I would expect if you were actually shot in the face with legitimate mace. And then this brazen individual throws the metal barricade at this guy, at this officer. The officer points his paintball gun or his rubber pellet gun, whatever, but doesn't actually do anything. And they don't seem that worried. If you're outnumbered by a crowd that big and they're shooting you with bear mace cannons and throwing metal barricades at you, if you are a police officer in that situation, that should have you just a little bit worried that your personal safety and even your life might be on the line, which would give you every right to draw your actual weapon, maybe even fire a round or two in the air to get the crowd to disperse. So the fact that these cops don't seem worried at all, they're going to get pelted in the face with what looked like bear mace shot out of a high intensity sprayer, and they're just going to back off and not do anything about it? What's up with these Tucson cops? So this guy right here, he took the full frontal force from that spray. And I'm just guessing if that's supposed to be mace, but he doesn't look like he's been affected as if he's been sprayed with bear mace. So what exactly did we see these police officers get sprayed with? I'm wondering if they just got sprayed with some harmless red liquid, some red Kool-Aid, if you will, which isn't burning their skin at all. Because this officer right here isn't reacting like his eyes are on fire. And if you were pelted in the face with legitimate mace from a high-intensity sprayer, you're definitely going to be showing some pain. And the fact that there's only like 5 of these agents versus like, I don't know, 40, 50 protesters, this almost seems like some sort of training drill rather than a real event where these police safety and lives were at stake here. The way that he just swung his nightstick right there, so nonchalant, it's almost like these guys know that there's no real element of danger here. They know that they're just doing a training drill. They know they're going to be sprayed with some Kool-Aid. They know they're going to be yelled at. They know they're going to have a barricade tossed in their general direction, but they don't seem to be worried about getting hurt at all. And it seems if you were outnumbered by that many unruly individuals, you would be just a little more worried. You would show a little more concern. So I would argue if this was totally legitimate, pulling out your actual firearm and even unloading a couple rounds into the air to get this crowd to back up and disperse, or shooting some actual tear gas into the crowd to get them to disperse, would make sense if this was a legitimate event. But This appears to me, this is only my opinion, like we're looking at a staged training drill that is being passed off by the New York Post as a legitimate riot.
Paycheck that justifies this. Let me tell you, there's no paycheck that justifies
Like it looked like that cop just fired his like rubber pellet gun, but it didn't sound like anyone went ah and got hit. He just fired that into the crowd. With that many people, there's zero chance that you should miss. So what we should hear is ah, and then people running, but nobody runs, nobody screams. It's almost as if that officer just shot a few bursts of air. And then the camera conveniently cuts to the next scene. So what we're looking at, well-documented, well-edited footage, meaning the cameramen who were there were focused on getting all the best footage they could, and they weren't worried about getting hurt at all. Okay, if this is an organic, legitimate protest, do you think all these people are just going to yell and scream, toss water bottles, throw smoke bombs, but then just leave it at that? And then they're all going to pick this one moment where they grab the metal barricades and slam them on the ground in unison? That seems like something that if you told them, hey, we want you to pick up these metal barricades and slam them up and down, and we're going to get this whole thing on camera. That makes sense if the whole thing is being staged. But if it's all organic and legitimate for these men, these protesters to all have the same idea that we're going to clank these metal barricades on the ground together, I personally, I'm just not buying it because that doesn't make sense. And then, of course, we have these cutaway camera angles where we get the graffiti. Ice melts with fire. This also looks like a setup, right? Like they want this message to be shown on TV across America. Now, here's a shot where it looks like they're actually arresting somebody. So what you could have is a staged shot, and then you can splice in real footage of real people getting arrested, because there are real people getting arrested. Not every single paid protester is there LARPing. There are actual troublemakers, actual useful idiots who do show up to these events. And if these useful idiots, if these troublemakers do get involved and do assault police officers, they could definitely get arrested for real. So you could splice in real footage of protesters being arrested and the staged training footage, and you'll have a combined effect that makes the whole thing seem more realistic because you're adding in real footage to the staged footage. So this looks like they could be actually dragging a dude off and arresting this dude for real. So imagine that last scene we saw with the big crowd where they didn't arrest anybody and the cops just stood there and took whatever the crowd was throwing at them. And then they splice in this scene and they make you think that the two things happened at the same place at the same time. You weren't there to see all this go down. So what they could have is a closed movie set where they film the first part, and then some useful idiot, some troublemaker gets involved, and they arrest his ass for real, and then they splice that footage in and show it to you as one event. Such a strong contrast from what we saw where none of the police were doing anything. So they show us all these police being outnumbered, backing down, getting sprayed with bear mace or what looked like mace, firing what appears to be blanks at the crowd, literally arresting nobody, doing nothing but backing up. And then they show us this footage of them dragging this one individual around on the ground. Quite the contrast here. So, judging by what we're looking at here, this parking lot, the way it's set up, it just screams closed movie set to me. So again, not every single protester is a paid protester. Not every single person is an actor, a LARPer, putting on a show for the TV. There definitely are a bunch of useful idiots and troublemakers showing up to these events and getting involved. And those are the ones more likely to be arrested. And of course, these events are going to be used for them to install more security measures, more cameras. But we already live in a surveillance state. So any useful idiot, any troublemaker who shows up with a mask, gets involved, starts chucking rocks and bricks at police, you better believe they're going to go round up the real troublemakers. So real people are getting arrested. However, a lot of these events are also being staged for the television cameras. So we have a combination of staged and real rioting going on. And most of the public has no clue. They think it's all 100% legitimate. They think it's 100% organic, what's going on. Make no mistake about it, folks. These protests are being manufactured. And in a few more days, June 14th, there supposedly is supposed to be a nationwide, huge protests going on in every major city across the United States. So I will keep you updated. If anything goes down, whatever happens to go down on that date, I will keep you updated and give you my honest opinion. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.